Hi, I'm Orgone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make some Orgonite, a special piece called Shungite Pure, which is a charging plate and looks something like this. Let's begin with the copper coil. We're going to make a copper coil. First, we take about maybe a foot, cut it off. Put your needle nose pliers in the center, and then twist it around. And there we go. Okay, now we are set to make our Orgonite. I've got my resin here. I get it in a gallon jug that's not easy to pour small amounts from, so I'm going to use my jar of resin, and we're going to pour about an ounce of the resin into the mixing cup. Now, if you want to use epoxy resin, that's totally fine. I know they have equal parts. Just mix 2 half ounces together till you have 1 ounce of resin. And I'm going to add my hardening drops. I add 9 to start, and then 9 for every ounce thereafter. And then we're just going to pour our resin into one of the mold cavities. And if it doesn't go all the way to the edge, just tilt it until it does. And then we're going to put our copper coil that we made right in the center. And we're just going to let that mellow for a little while, and I'll come back to it to add our next step. Join me then. If you're worried about bubbles, the best way to attack them is with heat. You can use one of those long lighters or a heat gun. I recommend a heat gun because it's really easy to set your resin on fire. But I typically don't have problems with bubbles when I use the polyester casting resin. So try the heat gun if you feel that you need to get after those bubbles. It's been about an hour, and like I said, this is polyester resin, and it cures faster than epoxy. It's not hard, but it has congealed, so anything that we put on it is not going to sink down through the first layer of resin. So let's get to adding our stones. First, we want to go ahead and mix up our resin. I am going to do 2 ounces. Okay, the resin is all mixed up, and well, we should start off by pouring some in here. I'm just pouring a little bit to get it started because you don't want to put your stones on the dry layer of resin, because you may trap some bubbles under there when you pour your resin eventually. So I'm going to start adding my Shungite pieces. Since they're kind of big, I just position them around the center coil. And then we're going to use rose quartz gravel. And I'm just going to sprinkle it around the shungite. You don't want to fill up the mold, but you just want to get a nice coverage so there's not too many empty spots. Okay, well, I'm going to add a little bit more there. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have that all added, we're going to pour in some more resin. I probably won't need all of the 2 ounces that I poured, but I do want to get that covered. And this is a big stone in here, so that's going to kind of show through our bottom, and that's going to be okay. Yeah, I probably used about 1.5 ounces, maybe 1.25 ounces. So feel free to dial that down when you are mixing your resin. You don't have to use too much. So we are going to let this settle. And next we will be doing our layer of metal. In making Orgonite, you have layers of gemstones and metals, and those layers act as a filtration device to help protect from EMF radiation coming from cell phones, Wi-Fi towers, and 5G technologies, and that's what Orgonite is meant to do. So we're going to make it in the layers like it suggests. So I will see you when this hardens. Okay, we are back, and now it is time to add our metal. I am going to use silver leafing, but if you'd like to use brass shavings or aluminum shavings, please feel free to do so. I use the leafing because I think it looks pretty, but maybe the brass might be a better choice. I don't know. I really don't, but I'm just going to try my best, and we'll go with that. My resin, so it's been about an hour, like I said, and my resin is congealed. It's not hard, it's congealed, and it's still tacky. So I'm just going to lightly press down. There's that big chunk of shungite that's sticking out there, and that's going to be okay. I'm just going to press it into the resin lightly. And it's okay if it cracks in places and breaks. It's leafing, it's lightweight, and that's what it's going to do. So what I do at this point, I kind of press it into, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have worn the nitrile gloves while I'm doing this, because they're sticking to my gloves. Yikes, I'm going to take my gloves off. Get it right up to the edge. And so I'm just going to pour my resin over that, and then I will tear the rest of this off when that hardens. So I only need 1 ounce to finish this off. This ounce is just going to cover that metal for you and give you a nice finish. And we're going to add our hardening drops. Remember, 9 to start, and then 9 for every ounce thereafter. So I'm going to do 18. Hi, and welcome back. I don't know if you noticed, but my last segment finished too soon. It did not capture me pouring the last layer of resin. Obviously, I did pour it, and it's taken time to cure, and I'm going to demold the project and we'll see what we have. So this is what we have, a really nice finished product. And of course I have the leafing sticking out here, so I'm just going to use, I use a emery board to do my sanding, and you're more than welcome to use sandpaper. I find that an emery board just works a little bit easier on these types of pieces. Okay, so I have sanded the piece at the edges where they are sharp and rough when they first come out of the mold. So I got those nice and smoothed down as best I could. And the piece looks lovely, except for you may notice one thing that stands out, and that's this pink spot here. This was some ink left over from something else I made in that mold. This speaks to keeping your molds clean, and I definitely have failed in that department. So this isn't the best piece in the world, but everything else looks good. There aren't any bubbles in it, and yeah, I think it came out nicely except for the little pink dots. I'm not going to sell this one. I'm probably just going to keep this one for myself, but anyway, it's time to put the feet on it, and we're going to spray it with clear coat. So let's put the feet on it. On these round pieces, I just use 3 dampening feet, the little cabinet dampening bumpers that you can buy. I leave the link in the description below. But yeah, I just use 3. You can use 4 if you want, but it's just my personal preference to use 3. And as you can see, the large piece of shungite did stick out at the bottom like I thought it would, and that's still okay. It sits nicely on its feet, and we're going to go ahead and spray this and let that dry. There we go, and we're just going to let that dry and we'll have a finished piece. So welcome back. We have our finished product, the Shungite Pure Orgonite charging plate. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. It makes me super happy when you do that. And subscribe to my channel for more great Orgonite projects. I'm going to close this video with pictures of other Orgonite projects on the horizon. I look forward to making them with you. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to find out when new Orgonite projects are released. This is Orgone Nick. Thanks for joining me here today in my Orgonite studio. Have yourself an amazing rest of your day. Bye-bye. So I wanted to show you this picture. It shows what happens when you put water on a charging plate. I put blue food coloring in a glass of water and I set it on top of the charging plate, and I stuck the whole thing in the freezer. And as you can see in the after picture, the water froze while it had purified the blue out of the water almost in a cyclone fashion. So you can see that it was doing its job by purifying the water when it froze. So here are a few of my Orgonite pieces that I'd love to make with you guys in the future. Also, I wanted to tell you about the charging plate we just made. I made one for my mom, who put hers under her cat's water, and what she noticed was that the upstairs cat began drinking from this bowl downstairs, which he had not done before. Animals truly have a sixth sense, and this told me that they're really and truly functional pieces of Orgonite, good for our daily lives.